Hello. All right. I'm about to introduce our final speaker of this session. But before I do that, I just want to let you know that the books at this table and in the hallway, these are newer books, and these are George's collection of books, are for sale, and they are for sale at breaks, so please come and see us. The tables will close promptly 5 minutes before we start the next session. So you'll notice there are sheets on the tables, so as soon as those sheets come out, please head back to your seats. So our final speaker of this session is Mike Ranta. Mike hails to us from Atikokan. He says is the canoeing capital of Canada. Mike considers himself a modern-day voyageur, and while having done many odd jobs, his dream is to paddle for a living with his dog Spitzy. His best canoeing memory is the first ever father-son trip that he did, and although it wasn't maybe the best or easiest trip for them both, they've proceeded to do many more in the past, I believe, 20 years. His favorite meal on trip is fish, freshly caught fish, but he says, and I quote, "There's nothing better than a big old juicy greasy burger after a couple weeks on the water." Mike heard about the symposium through the Canoe and Kayak magazine, where I believe he just recently won Adventure or Paddler of Expedition of the Year award last year.
2015, yes.
2015, oh yeah, we're in 2017 now, whoops. Right now, Mike is most passionate about helping youth and veterans by paddling. He recently dedicated his 2016 expedition to veterans and to raise awareness about PTSD, and that's exactly what he's going to share with us today. So please welcome Mike.
How are you guys doing today? We're going to start with a short video here, just doing a short explanation of what we're kind of about.
Mike Ranta, the pride of Atikokan, Ontario, is the world's first solo canoeist to successfully traverse the North American continent in one season.
It's not sunshine and lollipops out there all the time. It's not just paddling down a river and experience rainbows and all this, man. Yeah, you bet it's dangerous.
Okay, wow. He's drowning here. I gotta get him out of here. I gotta get him. I gotta help him. Look at him. Look at him. He's right here. He's just little. He's going under. He's going under. I can't.
You know, we can't keep destroying our planet. We got to start realizing that if we don't have good water and good air, it don't matter how good our economy is. It don't matter how many dollar bills you put in your back pocket. Dead's dead. Sick is sick.
Mike's primary goal was to raise awareness for the many challenges that face our Canadian veterans.
You know, we're losing 22 guys a day between the United States and Canada for suicides. For these guys to get help, the paperwork they got to go through is sickening. It's sickening. It's broken. And a lot of times, if they don't dot an I or cross a T, they're right back to the very beginning of it. For a man or woman who has mental issues, that's devastating. Rejection is devastating, especially when it comes from the very people who promise to protect them.
Mike's love of country and the generations of men and women that continue to serve and protect Canada runs deeper than the waters of Lake Gitchagumi.
Talked to a lot of American soldiers that were out there fishing, and they said the one thing they feared was a Canadian soldier. It was when they came into the ground, you knew it. The steps were heavier. There was a pride. There was something thick there, and everybody stepped aside because they knew these guys were going to get the job done, hell or high water. You know, and there's so many stories out there, and they weren't guys to brag about it. They just did it. They just did it for country. They did it for family. They did it for friends. Amazing people. Amazing.
I caught up with Mike on a gloomy November day on the shores of the Kinchissippi River in Pembroke, Ontario. I hope you enjoy his story.
Video, hey, it actually made me look good. Right on. There's a lot of people I'd like to thank for getting me here today. Canoe and Kayak is a big one. Our Canadian Canoe Museum also. And yeah, in 2016 I had an opportunity to paddle from coast to coast. The reason why I wanted to do it is I want to do it for our veterans. I lost a couple of friends in that World War II era, and I just wanted to really say thanks to that group of people. They really did sacrifice a lot. And, learning stuff in the media here and there, I come to realize that they really do need our help. Excuse me. We took off on April 1st. We headed across our lovely country, starting in BC. And it was an amazing adventure. I can't say enough about the Canadian people and the hospitality I've met right from coast to coast. I like to explain it like as if BC was the best part of the trip, and it just got better as I went along. It was, we've got such a beautiful country. Meeting all the people along the way with it, challenging a lot of the weathers. Out of the 214 days I was out in 2014, I had 176 days of rain. And there was lots of snow up that way, and it was cold. Some days I was waking up with my hair frozen in the tent. But it was just the things that I got in mind for it. I put myself into that veteran's mind, and what they had to go through is really, really amazing. And what I was putting myself through was really nothing compared to what our veterans have gone through in the past. And so to keep these guys in mind, to truck along every day was not only an honor, it was a privilege that they gave us. And it was so cool going up around through BC. In total, my trip, I've seen 18 bears and 2 mountain lions. I had the rare occasion of seeing 2 mountain lions in 2 days, and from what I hear, that's pretty rare. I wish it was a lot rarer. I have my best friend with me, as you can see in the front of the canoe. His name is Spitzy. He's going to be turning 9 this year on April 3rd. He's a purebred Finnish Spitz, and he's as brave as he is handsome. And for some reason, he just loves playing with bears, which works out for me in the long run, actually, because he keeps them busy while I get the heck out of there a lot of times. We do put ourselves in some very isolated places, and we got to realize too that I'm in their backyard, so I got to present myself accordingly, so I don't create that human-animal conflict that we really don't want to happen. I absolutely love animals. I do wildlife rehabilitation back home. As we'll see in a little bit here, I actually had an opportunity to rescue a baby moose. He was just a little fella. I come around the corner, and he got stuck in the sticks. When Mama ran away with one calf, he ran away in the water. He was the bull calf, so he was the boy of the group, and the little female ran with Mama, and the little one got into trouble, the little kid. And it was pretty cool to actually have that opportunity. The geology along the way of this trip was just simply amazing. I never thought that there was that much that our country had to offer until I got down to the southern part of Alberta and into Saskatchewan. It was so cool, and this is just, it was amazing for me. I couldn't believe that we actually had smoking coal seams running along our river systems in some places. And the geology, and I could see why the provinces were sectioned out the way they were. The geology that changes at that point in time was pretty amazing. And it was really cool. This is actually right taken in my hometown of Atikokan. And there's me and my best friend right there. He's again, so amazing, so brave. Thank you. And this, of course, is Fort William in Thunder Bay. This is, a big part of our history in our country. The big rendezvous point was in July 1st, when they met with the canoes in Thunder Bay. And it was the start of the beautiful lake of Gitchagumi, Lake Superior, which to me was as beautiful as it was terrifying. Being on that size of a lake in a small canoe is very humbling, to say the least. And meeting a lot of these guys along the way was just fabulous. These cliff faces here are up well over 1,000 feet along the way. And it's one of the main reasons why you could see the prominence of the sleeping giant when you go up through there. The oldest guy I had sign my canoe was 103 years old. And I met him in the Pearly Rideau in Ottawa. and amazing. And I've got guys 103 all the way down to, into the 90s. There was one fella who really stuck out to me when I was traveling along. Actually, a few of them, but the one that was there is when I was on the Caramios Hill. This old fella got out of his truck, he walked down, he introduced himself saying he was 80 years old, and he just wanted to show appreciation for what I was doing. I was getting veterans to sign my canoe as I got along the way. So I said, well, where did you serve? Go ahead, you can sign my canoe. And he goes, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't serve, he said, but would you mind coming and saying hi to my dad in the truck? Oh, your dad? How old's this guy? And he was 98. First wave in on Normandy. He lost 83 men in one day. The very first day he was out. And having him walk me through that story, and not ashamed to say, I was crying right alongside of him as he pointed out and mentioned names. And it was just a real emotional moment. And when you got a man of that stature shaking your hand and saying thank you for what I was doing and about to accomplish, that meant so much to me. And I realized I was on the right track. That's my totem animal right there, the snapping turtle. It represents Mother Earth and North America. And I just absolutely love them. And they're as tough as nails, they're old, and they just keep going. And there's some future voyageurs here along with Spitz. We met a lot of kids along the way, and I do a lot of talks at schools, and it's very, I'm very fortunate to have the ability to do this and actually talk and get in touch with a lot of kids in the school. And sometimes they just need that nudge in the right direction to keep them and get them going in the right ways of things. Again, Lake Superior was just so amazing to me. It was just, it's such a feel-good, positive energy lake, and I can't say enough about it. The people along the shorelines are just amazing. And I was out there, and it took me a little better than 3 weeks to get across. But she turned angry on my last trip. She took a life. I watched the boat go by me down in Haviland Bay, and they never made it to the other shoreline. One fella made it, one guy didn't, and they never did find him. The lake is amazingly powerful, amazingly deep, amazingly cold. And it's not a lake to fool around on, that's for sure. But the pictographs on that, it was just cool. As my ancestral background is, I tell people I'm Finn and Métis. So I'm half Finn, I'm half French, and I'm half Ojibwe. And it does take a guy and a half to paddle across the continent the way I did. And in 200 days, I've had people from all over the world. I not only got Canadian veterans to sign my canoe, but as I went along, I actually had a lot of American soldiers sign. I had some Polish, Ukrainian, all over the world. One of my most, this is the video here I'm going to show. This is where I rescue a baby moose.
It's okay, I got you. It's okay, little one. I'm going to help you here, okay?
Spitz acts so awesome in this. He's got a really good connection with me.
I never thought I'd be doing this. Okay, here we go. He's just a wee little fella. Oh my, okay. Mama! Oh, I got you by the ears. Can you get up? Oh boy, okay. Okay. Okay, little moose. It's okay, little moose. Spitz, you stay. Okay, off he goes.
What happened there is we got around, he got caught in the brush. It was kind of my fault. I startled him when I come around the corner. The one took off with the mama moose, and the other one ran right in the water and kind of got caught up in the twigs. And he was going underneath. I knew if he got swept underneath there, he was going to perish. And I felt obligated to get in there. I also know the most dangerous thing in the bush in the springtime is a mama moose. They are or a mama anything for that matter. But, I've got scars as a kid to prove it. I've always had that love and compassion for animals. I've always wanted to help, especially the orphaned ones. And it was really cool to grab hold of that little fella and get him in there. We drifted around it, and then he stepped out and got up on the bank. And then I got out of there. I knew better than to stick around. So actually, when I come around, the river was very windy, and by the time I got back around, I could hear the mama honking at her, or honking at him, and him honking back. And it was a distinct, because I've heard this tone very lots before, was a mother giving her son the what for doing what he did. And so yeah, it was so cool to have that. It was a real rescue mission. I actually rescued a baby turtle, or a little baby turtle. A little duckling came right up to the canoe, and yeah, we rescued that one and actually got it to a duck farm. And Fast Eddie is what I called him. He was doing fine last time I heard. And it was just an incredible experience. I've raised everything from a little moose or a little deer to a bear, muskrat, beaver, countless squirrels and chipmunks, and yeah, everything out there is my friend, and it is. It's how you carry yourself and how you present yourself to those animals around you is how they'll take it. They do recognize our feelings because they have them too. They've got a sixth sense to it. They can understand, just like most people have dogs. They can know when your dog knows when you're feeling sad, feeling happy, feeling glad. The animals have that too. And when you bring that out into the bush and show that to them, you'd be so amazed on how they take that. And yeah, I'm friends to a lot of critters. I'm never alone out there. And I always got my boy with me too. But he doesn't like the bears around as much as I do, so he puts the run on them whenever he can. And this was, yeah, when I came through the Mattawa River, it was actually just an amazing place. It's where all of our country's builders went through. And it was really cool to actually step in those same footsteps and get that voyageur sense out there. It was beautiful for me. I can't say enough about the hospitality of Canada, especially on the East Coast. I mean, there was old ladies throwing potatoes at me with slingshots, and you know, like, I mean, you could not walk past the place without somebody offering you something. It was almost insulting. But when you're carrying your canoe and you're getting people throwing 2 to 3 gallons of water in at a time and saying, "We won't take no for an answer," and well, you just put in 75 pounds worth of food. So I felt bad at one corner. I was actually dumping out water. I had almost 15 gallons of water and close to 7 plates of big plates, like Newfoundland hospitality, heaping plates of food in my canoe. Not a good thing when you got critters running around. But the men and women that I had an opportunity to talk to, again, one of the craziest ones I talked to, he was a guy from Hitler Youth on the Winnipeg River. And he was captured by Canadian soldiers when he was at the age of 15. And he got brought over to Canada on the trains and everything. And he had a unique sense of humor. And he never did go back. This was his country. The look on his face was priceless when I asked him to sign my canoe. He goes, "Didn't you hear anything I said? I was on the other side." I said, "You're as Canadian as they get. You're as Canadian as they get." We're hearing a lot nowadays about immigrants and all this other fun stuff. And you know, it's who we are as Canadians. We open up our hearts, we open up our minds, and we welcome. And I've seen that right across our country, in all the small Indigenous communities as I went, and I can't say enough about them. Every place I stopped in, I've never once ever felt threatened. I never once felt unwelcome. There was open arms and hearts no matter where I went, and it's so surprising how a hug, a smile, and a handshake, it can just make a difference in the world. And that's exactly what we're doing here in this year coming up. I'm doing another trip, going from Bella Bella. My first portage is 840 some kilometers. I'm going with my friend David Jackson from Canoe and Kayak Magazine, and we're going to say happy birthday to Canada. And we're also going to raise awareness for PTSD. And we're just going to get as many Canadians as we can to sign our canoe and just say thank you to everybody that we meet, because it does take a group effort. And I've met all kinds of every ethnic and religious background, and it does take a group effort to make a country this great. I am very proud of where I am. And you bet, Canada is the greatest. And I also want to have this opportunity to show people this background and our backcountry who don't have that ability to get out there. We have that technology nowadays. And yeah, if anybody wants to get on board with us, it's mikeranta.ca. Come follow along. We're going to have a track locator with us. And I take pictures, and I'm telling you, the moose thing is nothing compared to some of the instances I've got myself into. I got indirectly hit by lightning 2 years ago. I have now developed a very strange type of synesthesia. I rarely get tired. It's kind of crazy. My longest paddle that I've ever gone nonstop is 47 hours, and the only reason why I stopped is because of weather. And I couldn't think of a more Canadian way to say thank you to our veterans than to paddle from legion to legion, personally shaking these men and women's hands and saying thank you for keeping our values and keeping us safe. A lot of times we tend to forget. It isn't the people so much, but the veteran that keeps our values the way they are. There's a lot of people who'd like to take away everything that we have. We've got people protecting us, so we can gather like this and appreciate and show that love for nature and show that love for our fellow Canadians. And I can't say enough about them. I really can't. I've met all kinds, from today's veteran to the World War II guys, on both sides, and seeing that love and compassion that they have so deep in their hearts that they would give their life for it, that says something very special. And a lot of them need our help. As we keep hearing in the news, a lot of it, they're taking a lot of things away from them, and we need to show it. We need to show that love and compassion for these guys. Oh yeah, there's the big lobster. That was fun. There's my dog had a hard time getting up on there because when he was a pup, he got bit by a crayfish. So he was having a hard time getting up that. He recognized the danger. But I couldn't say enough about the police officers I met along the way. I've had some pretty funny stories. They always ask me. There's always the tough guy cop that comes up and says, "Hey, what do you got for bears?" I say, "Oh, I got a frying pan, some butter, I got some oil." And I always make them ask me, "Do you have a gun?" And I say, "No, I don't carry any kind of guns. You don't need to. You present yourself proper anywhere in life, and you should never need one, including the bush." And I also say, I said, the most dangerous thing on the planet is a human being with a gun. And usually they're standing there with one. So they kind of, they kind of get a sense of humor of it after a while. It was, I've had some pretty amazing experiences, and I actually had a few police officers stop to bring me coffee and help me change a tire after my many flats that I had. And it was just cool. It was just cool to see that, that love and compassion come out of them on that end. They are people too, and again, a lot of ways they get a bad name because of a few bad apples. But in general, I've always had great experiences that way. Getting into Cape Breton Island was amazing. It is a gem in Canada's crown. If you ever get the opportunity, for sure, go check it out. There's a lot of little towns along the way. One town that really sticks out for me too is Killarney, Ontario. Not far from here. If anybody's ever been, you'd know why. It's, I got my friend John Zeithley that lives there, 92 years old. He's a Special Forces World War II vet. He drinks and smokes like a teenager. It's unbelievable. First example ever. And this is when I first arrived in at Cape Breton, after 200 days of paddling. And it was a very proud moment when I pulled up, and my dad and surprisingly my brother was there to meet me. And very emotional. Very addicting, because I got to do it again. I've lost over 80 pounds on this trip alone. I fatten right up as I am now. That's the whole funnest part of doing these trips, is I went to school for cooking for 2 years. So anyway, I would like to take the opportunity to say thank you and invite you all on this trip that's coming up. It's going to be a cool one. Like I said, there's something always crazy happens. I almost lost Spitz on my last trip, but yeah, we pulled it off. We pulled it off in 200 days. So thank you very much for coming out here today, and I really appreciate it, and I hope it was entertaining.